It's a big shout out to everybody in the live chat. We got first in the live chat. We got Huey Dewey. If you're not first, you last. Ricky Bobby. So big shout out to Huey Dewey being first in the live chat, first to show up. And what I'm gonna say is, after not even after a while, I think it's just period. The FIA seemed to just consistently seem to be inconsistent, but I gotta say, they sure seem to always have the ability to claim that Lewis Hamilton needs to do more, or that he's not doing enough for somebody else to do their damn job or do what should be done on track. So I just want to take a moment. Now, listen, both incidents are not the same, right? They're not the same incident. Actually, one's a lot worse. One is a lot worse. And in my opinion, definitely should have been extremely more penalizing. But it seems to me that Lewis Hamilton got penalized more than he should have been penalized, especially with the overall situation. And we've been over this several times before in other situations, and I've shown you the documents. I've shown you they use the same article, whether it's the International Sporting Code, or the International Sporting Code, or they're using something else in regards to whatever the situation may be, and they'll have the same listing for their infringement, whether it's the sporting regulation. And in this situation, we're going to see that I'm trying to understand how Lance Stroll's penalty seemed less severe than Lewis Hamilton's penalty in a situation where Lance Stroll indeed caused damage to another team's car, another Ferrari, as a matter of fact. Let's just call it like it is, Ferrari. And as we know, in qualifying, Lance Stroll was already 19th. He qualified 19th, went out of Q1. Lewis Hamilton goes all the way to Q3 to qualify 4th. And I got to just tell you, in my situation, I feel like the FIA did something in a way to further penalize Lewis Hamilton on this situation. So let's just take a second and look at this. Huey Dewey's first in the live chat. Dave's Quattro is second, and Mary Beanie is third, and that completes our podium for the live chat. So when we look at this, because we're going to look at this, I just got to say, hot damn. I mean, not destroyed, but completely mangled. I mean, mangled, moved into the path of an entire Ferrari, causing damage to not only the Ferrari, but the Aston Martin. And to me, look at that. That's not even partially in the way. Lance Stroll completely moves in the way of that Ferrari. And here we are sitting the day of Monaco already. We're already knowing that Monaco is going to be a snooze fest. They're already trying all these antics. I know we got bigger platforms talking about manipulation, and it's funny that bigger platforms get all of this, prestige. It's like, oh, they're big and you're small and you're a tinfoil cap wearing. And no, let me tell you something. They indulge in the things that should be indulged in when they want to try to. But when it comes to being real, when it comes to giving a real perspective and a real opinion on things that we see in Formula One, things that drivers do, teams do, things that might seem racist, biased, things that might seem discriminatory, things that might seem just out of the place, they're scared to talk about a lot of that because they're scared about their access being denied into the Formula One paddocks, onto the Formula One streets, into the Formula One buildings. That's why they cuddle sometimes. That's why they leave some things alone. I don't think it should have to be like that. I don't think it should be like that. You should be able to invite people in that are going to give you a real perspective on what's going on because everybody else sees it. They just want to know why you don't talk about it. So here it is, Lance Stroll, all right? Lance Stroll is in a situation where collision between 18 and 16 by twos and turn 6. Everything's an even number in there. That's funny, right? Nothing, no It's not a conspiracy. It's just something that ended up coincidental. As you see right here, May 23rd, 25th, Monaco Grand Prix. So if we look right here, breach Appendix L, Chapter 5, and it is going to discuss, if we go into Article 2 Delta, all right, Article 2 Delta, decision drop of one grid position, a drop of one grid position. I understand he qualified 19th, but I'm pretty sure you could have put him elsewhere. I'm pretty sure you could have put him further back than just that. But you know what they said to themselves? That, he's already 19th. We'll just drop him one more spot and then give him one penalty point, which should be, I don't know. I'll give him that. One penalty point, total of 3 in a 12-month period, which means he needs 8 more, I believe, 9 more. He needs 9 more in order to have a race ban. But here it is. The stewards heard from driver 18, Lance Stroll, driver 16, representative reviewed positioning and marshalling systems, data, video, timing, as they always do, should be. Sometimes they put in their telemetry. Car 18 cut across the path of car 16 in turn 6, causing car 16 to collide into car 18. Car 16 suffered damage as a result. The driver of car 18 stated that although the team warned him, the team let him know. Okay, now we could put a list, a montage of Lance Stroll bloopers together, and you probably would be watching bloopers for maybe 15 minutes or more of short 2 to 3 second videos of Lance Stroll creating problems on track. Just keeping it real. I think he's campaigning to be out of Formula One, but his dad's not listening. Says, although the team warned him of the arrival of car 16, he did not hear the radio message, and that led to the incident. Okay, so although they warned me, but I didn't hear the message. So, okay. Well, hold on. Let me read a little bit further before I go into what I'm saying. We considered the car 18 was wholly to blame for the collision. Car 16 was not in a position to avoid the collision that took place. In the circumstances, we imposed one grid drop, one penalty point. Okay, so I don't see anything in there where they acknowledge, investigated, or come to find that their radio systems did not work. Because if your driver or the driver claims, I did not hear the radio message, I would then, from an FIA agent, ask, did something happen to your radio system? For some reason, was there a break in communication? Because I want to know that, because knowing that would at least give me something to say, okay, well, maybe driver not completely at fault. Systems failed, still on the team. Driver doesn't have anything to do with the radio communications. But that's not in here because evidently that wasn't the case. Evidently, either they didn't look into it, which they should have, or they looked into it and didn't find any reason why Lance Stroll wouldn't have heard the warning that he says his team gave him. So to me, that looks a little crazy. To me, it looks a little questionable. And then you get one grid drop and one penalty point. Okay. Now let's go ahead and look at the article, because they listed right here, breach Appendix L, Lima, Chapter 4, Article 2 Delta of the International Sporting Code. And if we go right here, we will be in the Appendix L, Chapter 2, right here, overtaking car control and track limits. So if we scoot down to 2 Delta, there's Bravo, there's Charlie, and here is Delta. And Delta says, causing a collision, repetition of serious mistakes, or the appearance of a lack of control over the car, such as leaving the track, will be reported to the steward and may entail the imposition of penalties up to and including the disqualification of any driver concerned. Any driver concerned. Well, I just think that in this situation, there probably should have been a bit more of a stiffer penalty for Lance Stroll. I just do. That's where I sit on it. And I'm not coming off of that. And I just have to say, when we go and we look, now just think about the verbiage that was used in that Lance Stroll document. Just think about that. We're going to look at Lewis Hamilton's verbiage, which we've done several times. And for some reason, it seems every time we look at Lewis Hamilton's verbiage in his documents, they always seem to make a way where it's supposed to be Lewis Hamilton doing more and not really criticizing the other driver as much as so. Right? That's typically what we see when we look into these documents. So what I also want to do is check this. Does anybody remember? Now hold on. Let's do this again, okay? I just want to take a look at the video. Let's take a look at the video. Even before we go into Lewis Hamilton's document, clearly moves into the path of the Ferrari, causes a collision into the path of the Ferrari. Would have been an overtaking car, but this situation causes a collision, causes damage, and they're saying that we're going to use a statute or a breach, an article that says, now you see the article, right? You see the article. Causing a collision, appearance of lack of control over the car. So I just got a question. He got a grid place drop and he got a penalty point on his license. That's what he got. And so my question now would be, okay, if that's the case and that's what you got for that, Super Chat says 083, yeah, Jay, it's always a double standard. It is, and that's what it seems like to me. It seems like a double standard. It really does. So I got to ask anybody, do you remember this? The Hungarian GP 2024, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton. Am I tripping, or did they use the same Appendix L, Chapter 4, 2 Delta, but the decision was no further action? Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. I remember. I'm pulling the file. So Lance Stroll got one grid drop and a penalty point, but Max Verstappen, for causing a collision, which jetted him into the air, came into the turn uncontrolled, erratic, with no control of his car that caused a collision. Wait a minute. Max Verstappen got no further action. Here we go with these double standards. Lewis Hamilton involved. Same appendix. Appendix L, Chapter 4, 2 Delta. Now let's read that again, ladies and gentlemen. It says, causing a collision, repetition of serious mistakes of appearance of lack of control over the car, such as leaving the track, will be reported. So all of that lines up with what Max did. All of that lines up with what Max did. So I'm trying to figure out, matter of fact, if you don't remember what that looked like, let me see if I can bring up my file to then bring up the image so that you can clearly remember what Max Verstappen had done there, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, I got it. I got it right here. I definitely got it. I definitely got it. Here we go right here. We'll just bring that up and freeze that. Freeze that. As Max Verstappen went in completely under control, not of his vehicle. So let's go into this document and let's read this verbiage and then read the new verbiage of the document with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen again. It says here, the stewards heard from driver 1 and driver 44. On the approach of turn 1, both 44 and car 1 overtook car 23, which really doesn't matter. Why they bring that in? Because they're trying to boost it up, trying to bring a little bit more information in to try to find a way to make Max and Lewis look like they're evenly responsible for this situation. Car 44 returned to the line before the braking zone and commenced to turn 1. Okay, so car 41 returned to the racing line before entering the braking zone, and he was already You're admitting in this document, Lewis Hamilton's already starting into his turn. He's already starting into his turn. Car 1 approached the turn faster than the previous lap. So Max was doing something different than he had done the previous lap. He's not even doing the same thing. Due to DRS, now listen, they're going to blame DRS. They blaming DRS now. We blaming DRS. And braked at the same point as previously, which, okay, I'm kind of wondering how you do that. The driver of car 1 argued that car 44 was changing direction under braking. No, he was turning. That's what he was doing. The driver of car 44 stated simply following, listen, the driver of car 44 stated that he was simply following his normal racing line, which was confirmed by examination of video and telemetry. So Lewis Hamilton told no lies. So 1, he returned to the line before the braking zone. 2, he told you that he was returning to his normal path. 3, you verified that he was already into his turn. And 4, you also verified he didn't tell you a lie. He literally, by telemetry and video, was doing the same thing he previously did before, while you already examined and reviewed that Max Verstappen was doing something different than he had done before. Okay, let's keep going. Any impact occurring but missing the normal cornering line for a typical overtake maneuver. So it was clear that Max Verstappen locked up both front wheels, which tells us what? Tells us that he had no control, lack of control over the car. Right here, 2 Delta. On the approach of turn 1 prior to any impact occurring, but missing the, listen, look at that, prior to any impact occurring. They really want to try to put the verbiage in there that says, well, nothing happened yet when Max did this. But missing the normal cornering line, so he wasn't even on the normal line. He already was doing something different, and he came in faster than he should have been coming in. But they want to say due to DRS. What the hell ever. It's due to him not being on the brakes when he should have been on the brakes. Like he was before. For a typical overtake maneuver, the driver of car 44 stated that this was a racing incident. This is where Lewis Hamilton should have shut the hell up. This is where Lewis Hamilton goes wrong to a fault. Trying to be apologetic to a fault. Being apologetic to a fault. I believe had Lewis not given them the green light to say, hey, we were already going to try to finagle Max out of here, but Lewis Hamilton just gave us the green light because he says it's a racing incident. Somebody who's not a steward, not a marshal, not the FIA president, not a FIA auditor, he's saying it's a racing incident. He just gave us the ability to let Max off, which we wanted to do anyway. Lewis Hamilton, he should have shut the hell up. That's what he should have done. This is where I criticize Lewis Hamilton. All right. And right here, Wallace, the driver of car 1, argued that this was a case of changing direction under braking, tried to blame it again on Lewis, and Lewis is already trying to let it go. The stewards do not consider this to be a typical case of changing direction under braking, although it's under determination that car 44 could have done more to avoid the collision. Do y'all see this crap? Car 44, Lewis Hamilton could have done more to help Max Verstappen not come in off the typical line that he did before, not come in with more speed than he should have, come in with braking a bit better, and come in with control of his car. Lewis Hamilton could have done more to help Max Verstappen not do all the things that he shouldn't have done to cause this situation. And you see the decision right here. No further action. No further action was their decision. This is what I'm talking about. So now let's go into the new document. See, this is where I call these things out, where these other bigger platforms, they're not calling this crap out, because this is BS. Now let's go into the new document with a situation in Monaco just this past weekend involving Lewis Hamilton, which they knew and heard Lewis Hamilton's team radio not give him the proper information. Lewis Hamilton didn't even clearly move into the view, into the path of Max Verstappen. It was barely a smidge, but I get it. Some is anything that might cause somebody to move off or come off of their push lap. I get that. But we just clearly saw Lance Stroll clearly move completely into the path of a Ferrari, causing a collision. We're looking at a picture now of somebody named Max Verstappen who doesn't have control of his vehicle to the point he's overshooting because he doesn't want to lose that position. He doesn't want to lose to Lewis Hamilton in any form or fashion, whether that's race position or a race, which he doesn't have to worry about racing events right now because Ferrari ain't up to par with their development, and Mercedes been off par for over 3 years now. But if we look right here, this document, Lewis Hamilton, car 44, breach Article 37.5. All right, Article 37.5 is right here. We got 37.4, 37.5 of the sporting regulation. 37.5 says any driver taking part in a free practice session, the qualifying session, or the sprint qualifying session who, in the opinion of the stewards, stops unnecessarily, which that's not the case, on the circuit unnecessarily impedes another driver, which is where we are with the situation, shall be subject to the penalties referred to in 37.4, which is right above here. 37.4. In the event of driving infringement during any free practice session, qualifying session, sprint qualifying session, the stewards delete a driver's lap time or drop the driver such number of grid positions as they consider appropriate. All right. So what did they consider appropriate for Lewis Hamilton and not Lance Stroll? Well, they considered that Lewis Hamilton, after getting qualifying fourth and in front of Max Verstappen of all days, in front of the Red Bull of all days, they considered that, you know what? We know that the team radio and information that was given to you, Lewis, was wrong. We also saw that you didn't completely move into the path of Max Verstappen, while Max Verstappen on radio went completely bonkers, over the top bunkers, because it's Lewis Hamilton trying to sell it, because one, you're not on podium and you're not doing well in a race where I thought you would do well. Curses, goes all off, all types of stuff. Never mind that. Never mind that. Never mind that, right? Never mind that. Never mind that you weren't completely in. Let's look at the document. They're going to drop Lewis Hamilton 3 grid positions for the race, right? Stroll, while causing a collision, got one. He could have started his ass in the garage or in the pit lane, really. They could have put him in pit lane. Should have put him in pit lane. Hell, should have gave him grid place drop and a drive-through. But there's a sitch right here. The stewards heard from car 44, Lewis Hamilton, to car 1. Team representatives reviewed, always, typically, sometime like usual, positioning, marshalling system, data, video, time and telemetry, and radio and evidence. Car 44 was on a slow lap off the racing line as he was approaching turn 2. Car 1 was approaching car 44 on a push lap. All right. The team first informed Lewis Hamilton that Max Verstappen was on a fast lap. Then they sent another message saying Max Verstappen was slowing down, when in fact car 1 was always on a push lap, was not slowing down. So this is not Lewis Hamilton's fault. In this document, it states, the verbiage states that the driver was given bad information by his team. He was only acting on information provided by his team, which we heard the information was completely incorrect. His team, the radio. Okay. But still, I understand if you're going to drop Lewis because he's the driver and this is the way you're going to penalize the team. But let's go into this further. This resulted in car 44 speeding up and moving into the racing line of car 1 entering turn 3. That right there, not completely true. That right there is not completely true. I think we all saw that while it may have been a smidge, it wasn't completely into the racing line of car 1 because he clearly went around smooth. You want to see what completely moving into a racing line looks like for a car? You had an example right there in Monaco with Stroll. It looks like this. Completely into the line where pretty much Charles Leclerc's on the wall. That's what completely moving is. This is what that looks like. See that? Seeing completely the back of another car is completely into your line. We didn't see that with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen because Lewis didn't completely move into the area of Max Verstappen, and Max Verstappen was clearly able to keep going around. If we were in a racing event, if we were at the Grand Prix, he would have clearly made the overtake with no problems. But I get it. I get it. So it says car one had to react. Listen, oh my gosh. Car one had to react. He had to react. Meanwhile, in the verbiage of Lance Stroll, did they say anything about car 16 right here? Did they say anything about car 16 having to, do anything heavily? No, it says car 16 was not in a position to avoid the collision that took place. So car one clearly was in a position to avoid it because he did. But, Max had to react. Appearing, listen, look at that, appearing to move into the racing line. Do y'all see that verbiage right here? Appearing. What did they say above? What did they say above? Didn't they clearly say that moving into the racing line of car one? So what are we doing here? What are we doing right here? You clearly said above here, moving into the racing line of car one, but then you come down here and you say Lewis Hamilton is appearing to move into the racing line. You want to know why you say it appearing? Because he didn't move into the complete racing line. So those are conflicting statements. That's conflicting verbiage. Either he was in the racing line of Max Verstappen, or it just looked like he was going into the racing line of Max Verstappen, which the latter is more correct to me. It looked as if he was, but he didn't move into the complete racing line of Max Verstappen. So this meant that Max Verstappen had to move off the usual racing line, and the push lap had to be aborted by car one. We carefully examined the racing line taken by car one previous laps, was the same area determined by car 44, did not, in fact, enter the racing line. This is a little conflicting to me. So now we got Lewis Hamilton did, in fact, enter the racing line. But above here, we have that Lewis Hamilton appearing to move into the racing line. And then we flip-flop back to Lewis Hamilton speeding up, moving into the racing line. Which one is it going to be? Did he move into the racing line? Did he look like he was moving into the racing line, but he didn't? And did he, in fact, he moved into the racing line? This is what I mean by FIA is so consistently inconsistent and so double standard. It's like they got two rule books when it comes to Lewis Hamilton, and especially when it comes to Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are involved together. Which one is it? Appearing is not is. Appearing isn't it happened. Appearing is something that looks like you're going to get there. But looks like you're going to get there doesn't mean you're there. So what I mean by this funny verbiage when it comes to Lewis Hamilton in these documents. So we get down here and we see car driver 44 expressed his displeasure at the incorrect message from the team immediately after the incident during the hearing. In fact, the team's incorrect messaging led to the incident, which was accepted by driver 44. During the hearing, the fact of the team's incorrect message leading to the incident was accepted by car 44. So what did they do? You know what? As with previous incidents of this nature, where a driver has received inaccurate, incomplete information resulting in a car impeding another, the fact the radio message was the cause of the impeding does not amount to mitigating factor. We therefore impose the standard penalty of a drop of 3 grid positions. So Lance Stroll verbally claiming that he did not hear his team warn him, and then completely moving into the racing line or into the path of Charles Leclerc, then causing a physical collision that damaged the front suspension completely of the Ferrari, seems like to me not only should Lance Stroll had gotten a stiffer penalty. But if that's the case, Lewis Hamilton, you should have just dropped him one grid position, because those are some of the same variables. Lance Stroll claimed he didn't hear his team warn him, but they did. Lance Stroll purposely moved into the path of the Ferrari under his own control completely. Lance Stroll caused two cars to have to collide themselves. But then again, you're saying with this article, we're looking at you not penalize Max Verstappen. We're looking at you tell Lewis Hamilton that he should have done more when Max Verstappen was at fault for not being under control of his car. This is the BS. Let me just say it. This is the bullshit. This is the bullshit that we continuously see when it comes to Lewis Hamilton in the sport of Formula One, especially when he's in a situation with Max Verstappen. Lewis should always be doing more. Sometimes Lewis needs to shut the hell up and not be so apologetic as to give them even more, as to give them more emboldened to screw him, because that's pretty much what they're doing. And Max Verstappen gets off. In this situation, there's not a element where Max Verstappen should need to get off. But I want to ask you all in the chat right now. I want to ask you, do you agree with the FIA's decision, knowing what I just showed you right now? Poll in the chat. Vote on it. Don't dance on it. If you dance on it, get $1 for it. And when I continuously see this type of verbiage and this type of situation, and the FIA continuously doing very questionable things, I just gotta say it's a bit crazy. It's a bit disgusting. And I think that it's high time that this type of shit stops. I mean, this type of stuff has to stop. I mean, if it's not going to stop now, I mean, when the hell is it going to stop? When are we going to get enough of seeing the FIA do things like this to the point where we clearly see that you are being biased towards another driver? Because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that they're being biased towards another driver. We see that they're always trying to say that Lewis Hamilton should be doing more. Lewis Hamilton is the more responsible person. Lewis Hamilton, you know what? He said that it's okay that we penalize him. So let's just go ahead and penalize him, because Lewis Hamilton is okay with it. And he said he's okay with it. He said as much in the document. This is a racing incident. Okay, well, next time Lewis Hamilton's in a situation, I want you all to keep that same energy. I want the FIA to remember to go to Lewis. Next time Lewis Hamilton is in a situation with any other driver, including Max Verstappen, I want you to go to Lewis Hamilton and I want you to ask him how he feels about the situation. And then I want you to say, Lewis, tell us what we should do. What do you think you should be penalized? Because, you know, we took your advice before. We listened to Lewis Hamilton before when he said it was a racing incident. So we said it was no further action needed. So I want you to keep that same energy. Next time, I want you to go to Lewis Hamilton and ask him what he thinks he should be penalized for. I want you to ask him what he feels happened. And when he tells you what he feels happened, I want you to take that as the gospel, and I want you to write that up in your document, because you have no problem always trying to take something that Lewis Hamilton says that will give you the opportunity where he's going to accept blame, where he's going to give the other person the right of path, even when he shouldn't be. But when it works in your favor to let the other person go, you're willing to listen to it. So I guess Lewis Hamilton's not only a Formula One driver, but he's by part-time a FIA representative. This is BS. BS is crazy. It's continuously happening, and the FIA are continuously in a situation where they're always inconsistent. You know, it just is. I'm just one calling it out, but other people, they'll say this is crazy. You know, we're looking at the documents, looking at the verbiage. You know, but anyway, we got Spain coming up. I think that this should be a pretty good racing event that we're about to be underneath, which we got about 3 more days. It's Tuesday, Wednesday. So actually we got 2 more days before the weekend warm-up start. And then we got 4 more days before we get into the free practice session. 3 more days before we get into free practice, 2 more days before we get into the weekend warm-up. And then we get to see a race which hopefully will be more competitive, right? More competitive and have better overtaking opportunities. We got at least 2 DRS zones at this track, so that should be the case. We got some pretty good straights and turns that will some constant radius, some increasing or decreasing radius turns. We have some nice opportunity here where I think we'll see a pretty good or better competitive race. And Catalunya is definitely, it's a track that's been here for a while, and I definitely enjoy it. And I think we'll see how it goes here if it should stay. But I think it's definitely a good track. I think it's better than Monaco. We got so many antics flying around about Monaco. George Russell talking about a helicopter dropping water and, Mario karting around Monaco to try to make it more interesting. But anyway, let's have a good day. Be safe, be healthy. Don't let anybody ruin your day. Negativity is already around. Try to be positive. And we'll be back live again this week. Peace and love. Wolfpack out. Peace.